You read the title. We're gonna be making this. Let's go. All right, first thing you're gonna do in DaVinci Resolve is you simply wanna create a new project. I'm gonna title this one YouTube tutorial, and we're gonna get into it. There we go. Now, once you have a clean slate, you're gonna right click over here in your media bin. Make sure you are actually under the edit tab. You're gonna right click up here in the media bin and click new fusion composition. I'm gonna name this one Twitch Follow. From here, you can make it any duration. I'm gonna make it 10 seconds to give myself plenty of time to work. And I'm gonna change my frame rate to 60, but depending on what your frame rate is that you record in, you're gonna set this to match that, all right? So I'm gonna go and click create, and now I have my very first fusion composition. You can drag it into the timeline if you want. This part's not necessary, but we're gonna click down into the fusion tab now. All right, now that we're here, we have one node that is known as our media out. If you notice how mine is snapping, it's because I have hit right click, arrange tools, and I click to grid. So I turn that off, you see it moves freely, but I actually like it to snap where I want it to go. So I'm gonna go to arrange tools and go to grid, and I'm gonna set my media out right here. So you think of your media out as your actual window where everything is showing. Anything that is connected to your media out will show live. If it's not connected, like for instance, I'm gonna throw up a background. I have a background, you can see I can make this color bright red, but it's not showing. I can now take this and connect it to my media out, and now it's showing because it's actually live. So anything connected to your media out is going to be live. So I'm gonna actually set my background node way over here. I'm gonna make it black, and I'm actually just gonna make it transparent. So right there, we now actually have a background. We have the building blocks to what we're gonna make. So I'm gonna go and add another background node in right here. Now this node, once I'm gonna connect it, so I'm gonna drag it down and I'm gonna hold down shift, and you'll see that bar turns blue. That means I can drop it in there. Now it's created a merge node, which is what we want. I'm just gonna, I clicked off, and I'm gonna drag it right above this merge node and line them up together. So now you see my background is actually black, but I don't want this to be a black background. I want it to be a small black square. And so I'm gonna click my background node, and then I'm gonna click the square tool, and you see it just resized it exactly how I need it. Now I'm gonna drag those down so they match. I'm gonna try to keep everything organized so we don't get too confused on what we're doing. So with my rectangle, I'm now gonna size it down roughly to the size I want it. I want it to be a perfect square and decently small when it first comes in. And we're just gonna eyeball it, and I'm gonna click this little arrow here to drag it down roughly where I want it. Like it's a little bit too tall. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bump up my quarter radius right here. And this is actually going to round off the edges. And I think it just gives it a nicer look right there. So there we go. We have that done. Next thing we want to do is we want to download the icon we want. So I have a Twitch icon, and if you guys want the same icon I'm going to use, join the Discord. The link will be down in the description, and I'll make sure to have it linked in the free channel there. Okay, now that you have your icon, you're just going to drag your icon into your media pool here, and we're going to drag it into the slot here, and you see it's going to create its own media in. And so same as I did before, I'm gonna hold down shift, and I'm gonna drag it into my blue bar, and you see it's gonna create another merge node. And I'm actually gonna shift both of these over that way to have these together, because I know they're going to go together. And actually, it's looking like it's about the right size, but I'm gonna go and add a transform node onto it, just like that. And now my transform node is what I'm actually gonna animate. I'm gonna make all my changes in my transform node. Just like I did my rectangle node, I'm now gonna make these in my transform. So one thing I like to do is the nodes I actually make my changes in that move things and adjust size and stuff, I'm gonna give them a certain color. So I've been giving them the color orange, just like this, so I know where they are. All right, so my transform node, now I'm gonna make this just a little bit smaller using my size tool here, and I'm gonna drop it down just into the block. Actually feel like that's pretty good. We may need to shift it over just a hair. We want to make sure we have plenty of breathing room. That's one design principle you need, is you want to make sure you have plenty of space around the icon. A lot of people would want to make the icon as big as they can to fit in this box. We don't want to do that. We want the icon to be able to breathe. It just feels better that way. And yeah, I think just like that is nearly perfect. I actually might size it up just a touch. We're at 0.75, I might go to 0.8. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Okay, so now we actually have these, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna animate these together. What I want is for our Twitch box to come in and kind of have a little bounce, and then it's gonna shoot over to the left, and this bar will actually extend out to the left as it goes, and then we'll have something pop up and it says, follow me on Twitch, link in the description. All right, guys, now we're gonna go and jump into the animating. So what I'm gonna start off with first is I'm gonna find where I wanna come in, and so I'm just gonna hit the play button, which is space. And I think right there, about 20 frames is a good amount of time. So I'm gonna drag this little bar down so I can see my increments. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my rectangle and I'm gonna create a keyframe. So these little dots are keyframes. What they mean is at this point in the footage, so at 20 frames, I want this, the rectangle to be at this area. So I want it to be, at this center, at this height, right? So I'm gonna click this keyframe, and I just added a keyframe. If I click away, you see there's a little white box right there. And now I'm gonna go back to 0, and I'm gonna drag it straight down. So now at 0, it's not in there, but at 20 keyframes, it's gonna be in position, just like that, right? So one thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna jump back here to about 16, and I'm gonna bring it just slightly above of its ending point, so it has a little bounce to it when it comes in. So just like that, and that's actually a little bit slow, so I'm gonna actually delete that keyframe and try it at maybe 18. We'll go a little bit higher. And that feels pretty good. After it's rendered, we'll watch it back. And watch it back a couple times. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So now what we've got to do is we got to do the exact same thing to our Twitch logo. So we're gonna go into our transform tool, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep this one selected so I see my keyframes, and I'm gonna click at 20. Sometimes you gotta double click because it wants to choose 19, but I'm gonna go to 20. And now I'm gonna click over and you see the lines disappear, but I know exactly where I want it to end because I made this ahead of time. And I'm gonna go to my center, click right there, and I'm gonna jump back to 18. And which I have the advantage because now I can see where my box is at 18, and I can actually drag it up right where I want it. Right about there seems centered. Let me click my merge node so I can see. Yeah, so now they should animate in pretty close together, except I did not animate it to 0 here. So let's go ahead and make sure we do that with this icon. We're gonna animate it back to 0 so it actually comes in. And we're just gonna kind of guess about where it'll line up on the box. That part's not as important. All right, so now we're there. There we go. You see they kind of animate in together. And that's exactly what we want. And so my next edit, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right to my number 20 keyframe, and I'm gonna send everything off to the left so we have room to put in our follow me on Twitch. So right here at, I guess, 20, we'll go 22. I'm gonna go about 32. That way it actually has time to get over, and we'll adjust the speed as we need to. So I'm just gonna shift my Twitch icon this direction, and we'll go and watch that speed back and see how that feels. All right, that felt pretty good actually. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So now we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go to my number 32 keyframe, and I'm gonna choose my rectangle. And now, instead of adjusting it here in center, I actually want to adjust the width because I'm just gonna make it longer, right? So I take it back. What I need to do is I need to go back to my number 20 keyframe and put a keyframe right here under width. You see, I didn't have one before, but now we have one, and so I'm gonna bump it out to 32. And I'm just gonna adjust my width out just like this until it just oversteps past that a good amount. And so we'll watch it back and see how everything looks. All right, play it, click. Okay, one thing is I kind of do want my Twitch icon maybe just a touch bigger. Now I'd like to do that without having to add any keyframes, so I'm just gonna grab it and I'm gonna bump up my size just a little because I think it's gonna feel better when it extends if it's slightly larger. Okay, now that we have our final shape, we need to animate in our actual words. And so I'll probably let it sit for about two frames here. And at about 34, I'll throw in our next frame. So I'm gonna create a text box. Oh, make sure we have nothing selected. And create a text node just like this. I'm gonna merge it down. Make sure that line turns blue, and I'm holding down shift just like always. And I'm gonna actually shift this one this way just a little bit because I want to make sure I know that it is different from this. And so in my text, I'm gonna go and type in what I wanted to say, and it's gonna say, follow on Twitch. Now I'm gonna change the font, but you of course can change it to whatever you want, but my brand font is Gilroy, and I'm gonna go with Gilroy to extra bold. I'm going to shrink it down, and I'm going to add a little bit of tracking. Just makes it feel a little bit more professional. I don't want it to be tiny, so we won't go too far. We'll get our sizing kind of right. Now I'm just going to bring it down essentially where it's going to land here, right? So there we go. Just like that, we have it kind of centered where we want it to go. We'll shift it right there. You can play around with the text as much as you'd like. So now from here, we need to animate this in. So the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to put on it a rectangle mask, just like this. Now you can see how this mask works. Anywhere the mask is not, the text is not. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this mask significantly thinner, just like that. Now if I can grab a hold of that keyframe right there. And so what I'm actually going to do is I want my follow text to animate in from the right, and I'm going to have the link in the description animate in from the left, so they kind of like cross over each other. And I think that actually gives a really cool effect. So that right there is perfect how I have it. I'm going to click off, and I'm going to go and create another text node. We're going to do exactly the same. Hold down shift, put it into my bar here, click off, drag it above, line that back up. And now this text we're going to type in all caps, link in description. Now I'm going to make sure there's contrast. One thing in design, you always want to make sure there's contrast. I have a bold font, so I need a thin font. Fortunately for me, my brand font, Gilroy, has both, so I'm going to go with Gilroy Light. I'm going to make it significantly smaller, something just like that. It is the secondary text. No one needs to see this. So when we're talking about textual hierarchy, we want them to read follow on Twitch first and then look for more information. And so that's why we have a bold text and we have a light text. So I'm going to space that down just a little bit, and I'm going to bring down the follow on Twitch just a hair lower. It kind of lines up, and maybe bring that one down just a hair lower again. And yeah, there you go. You can play with this as much as you would like, but now we actually have the text on the screen. And so when you're thinking about nodes, you got to think that all your nodes is making the design. All the animation actually happens when you're putting in your keyframes. So again, we're going to create another text mask, and you see it's working exactly the same way. The text only exists where the mask is. So I'm going to bring it to my center point right here, and then I'm going to size it down. And this one, I'm actually going to size it this direction as well, because it's a little bit smaller. There we go. And I'm actually going to make sure this one it's not, so I need to fix it as well. There we go. Something like that. Really, the right side only needs to be lined up. Okay, so now we're gonna actually start animating this. So what I'm gonna do is I know I'm gonna start my animation at 34. So I think it's gonna take it about 10 frames to get in there, and we'll adjust that speed how we need to, right? So I'm gonna put at 44, I'm gonna go ahead and put a mark. I'm gonna choose my text tool. So text 1 is selected. And if you're doing this correctly, you should be renaming these. So if you right click and go to rename, right there, you would type in follow, on Twitch, because that's what it says, right? And here I do the same thing, which it's just F2. If you hit F2, you can type on link or whatever. And this one I would actually rename to follow, and I'm just gonna call it mask, right? And then I would do this one kind of the same as link mask, just so I know what they actually are as I'm working through it, right? Okay, now that we have everything set up and everything correctly named, we're gonna actually start to animate these things, right? And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my word, which is my follow on Twitch. I'm at my 44th frame. All right, I'm gonna click over right here. You wanna click this tab, it has your layout, and you can see it can adjust your location. And so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put a keyframe right there, because at 0.44, we want it in this location. Now I'm gonna jump back to 34, and I'm gonna animate it off in this direction, right? So I can just drag this and drag it off just like that. And now if we watch it back, we see it slide right in. So now we're gonna do exactly the same thing. With it still selected, I'm gonna click my 44th frame, click the link. I'm gonna go right here, I'm gonna add a keyframe. I'm gonna jump back to frame 34. And then I'm just going to not go that direction. I'm gonna slide it on the x-axis, off right there, and I just want it just outside the frame. Just like that. So now if we watch it, slides out, those two slide on, and we'll watch it back now that it's rendered out. There we go. And they come on and they're there. We'll let it stay on the frame. That seems pretty good. Okay, we'll let it stay on till wherever we're at now. About frame 135. All right, so now we're simply gonna start animating things back off. And so I think we're just gonna animate everything out exactly how they came back in. We could do something different. Maybe we'll do something different just so I can show you guys a few different ways, but I'm gonna animate them out in the same directions that they came on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna animate my follow first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and add a keyframe right here. Just so I know at this point it should still be right here. Now, if I were to make my point right here at 135 and I go and say, okay, I'm gonna animate it up off the screen, what you're gonna see happen is it's slowly, like from the time that this keyframe is, it's gonna be slowly making its way up, because what I just told it is at this keyframe be here, at this keyframe be here. And so it's gonna slowly make its way there. We don't wanna do that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna show it, we're gonna Control Z to get rid of that keyframe. I'm gonna go one keyframe back and I'm gonna put a keyframe right there. And that tells it from, you know, this keyframe, 44, to this keyframe, it needs to stay exactly where it is, right? So now I'm gonna bump it up from here to, we'll say another 10 keyframes, maybe less because it's less distance. I'm gonna have it just scale up just like that and go off the screen up, right? Now we're gonna do the same thing to our link right here. We're gonna jump back to 134 right there. And we're gonna say, okay, we want you to be right here. And then at or where is it that I had that one go out? So what I'll do here is I'll select this one so I can see that one. I'll click exactly where that keyframe is. And now I can go here. And then I can send it just out of frame like its counterpart, right? So that should have them moving at a pretty similar speed. We'll watch it back to see. Yep, perfect. Okay, so now those have animated off the screen. Now I just gotta do something with this black bar. Okay, now all we have left is the bar and the Twitch icon. So let's go and get rid of those. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna shrink it back down to the original square it was in. And then we'll maybe just have it expand in or expand. What's it do when it goes in? What is that? Despand. Let me know down in the comments what that's called. All right, so at 145, it's all the way out. So I'm gonna go one frame past that. I'm gonna go over here to my rectangle. Or actually, I'm gonna do this one first. So I'm gonna add a mark right here that at this point, remember at this point, I want it to be in this location, okay? And then maybe by 5 frames over, I want it to be centered back up, just like that. All right, so now I'm gonna keep this connected right here. I want my rectangle to be with my width to be here. And I'm gonna select this one so I see my other keyframe at 50. I want it to be back as a little square around that. So we are going to contract. Contract is the word. We're gonna bring it back down. And so now we're gonna see that goes away. It contracts back down and we'll just have it fall back off the screen. Sound good? And actually, what if we add a little rotation to it as it falls, just because we can? So we have it come back in, we'll have it wait, you know, a short amount of time. It's gonna pause there with the little Twitch icon, and then we're gonna have it fall. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a keyframe right here, telling it that it needs to stay here at this point, right? And so then by about 165, we'll have it head on off the screen just like that. Okay, so with it still selected, I'm gonna click my point right here. I'm gonna go over to my transform. I'm gonna say at this point, you need to be right there. And then let me see where that other keyframe is. And then at this point, I'll just use this one. You need to be right there. And so now we should see they fall kind of together, comes in, and boom, right? It's actually a little bit fast maybe. So let's go to our spline editor. I haven't used this the whole video. But we'll go to our spline, and unfortunately I don't have those named. If they're named, it works a lot better. But here we can actually make adjustments directly to my stuff. So there we go. That's kind of how I'll space that out just a little bit. Now you see the Twitch logo is falling quite a bit faster, so we gotta locate the Twitch logo. All right, just for good practice, let's rename these real quick. All right, so it's gonna be F2, and I'm gonna say Twitch. We should have done this in the beginning. It would have made our whole life easier, but we didn't. So now I know this is my Twitch transform. So everything here, so I can go and take this one off. So this is my Twitch transform. And as you scroll through, you can see everything that happens with it. And so what I want to do is I want to wait. I actually want to grab this point and try to keep it kind of even in there. Just like that. Okay. So now we can go and click back off our spline editor and let's watch that back. Now it feels a little bit slow. So let's go back into our spline editor. Turn both these on. Unfortunately, I can't select them both. So we'll work with this one first and bring it back just a hair. And then we'll turn that one off and we'll turn this one back on. And we'll drag it to where it's centered with the Twitch logo again. Just like that. Now let's watch it back. Okay, there we go. So now let's say for a moment that we want to add just a little bit of a rotation, so when it falls, it kind of falls like it's dead. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep my square mask selected. I have complete control with my angle tool, as you can see. So I can turn it however I want it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my keyframe right here. So at this point, you're gonna be at this angle, right? But as you fall, I want you to have a decent amount of rotation. And so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna click this so I can see this fully, and I'm actually gonna zoom out just a little bit so I can see the level of rotation. So let's zoom out to 25% and give myself a little more working. Okay, so now I'm gonna have it rotate down just a little bit. So as it falls, it has just a little bit of rotation to it. You see that? All right, so now we gotta do the same thing to the Twitch logo. We're gonna go to our Twitch transform. So at this point, we want our angle to be here. And at this point, let's actually just steal the angle off the other one so it matches. Just gonna copy that number and I'm going to paste that number right here. And in theory, they should now fall at the same angle. There we go. And that is our animation, start to finish. What is up? So this is Editing Hills. I ended the recording and realized I didn't show you guys how to export it as a transparent layer. So let's jump right into that. So now that we have everything done, it's doing this stuff, it's super fly, it's exactly how we want it. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna go down here to the Deliver tab. So you gotta do this a little bit unique. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna give it a name. And so we're gonna name it, I'm just gonna name it YouTube tutorial, but you name it whatever you would like. I'm gonna choose the location where I want it to save, and sure, that's fine. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna do something different. You wanna make sure that while you create this initially, this is the only thing you have here is just your Fusion composition that you're exporting. Because you're gonna actually click individual clips, because only with individual clips does it allow you to export alpha layer, which is the transparency. And you want it transparent. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna format, we're gonna go to QuickTime. We're gonna go, our codec, we're going to go GoPro Cineform, okay? And under type, we're gonna change it to RGB 16-bit, and you see that just gave us access to the export alpha. Now, I may do this as a completely separate video at some point too on how to do this, but these are the settings you're gonna want. Go ahead and screenshot it if you would like. It has to be individual clips. If I do single clips, even with those settings, if I do single clip, I do not have the option for alpha layer. I need that option, so I'm gonna go individual clips and export alpha, best quality, and I think everything else, actually I'm gonna do my alpha mode to straight and then best quality, and I think now we're good. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add this to the render queue, and now it's right there. All we're gonna do is click start render. Okay guys, now that we're back in Resolve, I'm just in my edit tab. I just pulled in a random video clip. I have no idea what I'm even talking about, and I imported the tutorial we just made, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drag that in and show you that it is actually transparent. Now, I intentionally make it larger because now that I've brought it in, I can adjust it how I want. So I can click it, I can go to zoom, I can bring it down a little bit, but like that. And now I can put it where I want it to go. And maybe I want it, over here, something like that. And now if I play this through, I'm just gonna mute this audio because I have no idea what I'm even talking about. And there we go. The animation we just made is now a video. And look at that. That looked really cool how it just slid off the screen right there. But yeah, so now that is completely done. That is how you export it. That is how you use it. You can resize it also if you made it and you're not in love with your timing. If you want it to be just a touch faster, let's watch it back. Maybe we want it to be just a little bit faster, right? So what we can do is we can right click on it. We can go change clip speed. We can bump that up to say, we'll go crazy. We'll say we want it at 278, right? And you see it, shorten the size of it. Yeah. So you obviously don't want that, but if you do want to mess with that, you can just go change clip speed, bring it down so we want it at about 125. You can just type that in, actually. And there we go. A little bit faster. It's a little bit snappier. But that is our animation that we just made, and it looks really, really good on our video. All right, guys, just like that, it is that easy to make an animation in DaVinci Resolve. You can use those same tools, those same practices that we used in this video to make hundreds of other things. All you really need to know how to do is make shapes and keyframes, how to bring in text, how to take out text, and then you can use your imagination to make everything else. Of course, if you want that we just made, it will be in the Discord in the free channel section, so join the Discord, link is down in the description. You can download that and use it just like that. But I do encourage you to make your own, and if you do, post it on Twitter and make sure you tag me at Dr. Heels TTV. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and follow me over on Twitch. I stream Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we actually make things just like this live on stream, answer all the questions you guys may have, and help you with any design tips or critique that you may need. Appreciate you guys so much. And hey, if you're still working on your setup, I'm working on a series right now doing our entire stream setup in Canva, which is another free program. Anyway, you can click that link right over there. Have a great day. I'll see y'all later. They are escaping. We got to catch them.
Take them to jail.
And take them to jail. Exactly. That's what we do.
Yo, yo.